Hi everyone! Hello! Oh my god! Hello everyone! Welcome to the I'm just joking, no, seriously no. Welcome to the recording, welcome to the video. It is I, your host, your Lord, your Master, your Savior. You know what my name is. Okay, it's Media Fire, but I feel like I might have to change it in the future because there are apparently other channels, dare I say, more prolific than me. I can't believe it. But I am here with another recording, with another video. I'm so happy all of you could join me. All of you could be here for this moment in time as you focus into my beauty. I can hardly explain to you the ecstasy, the excitement I have to bring you another meal, a morsel of madness. I'm so happy. Why? Because I get to fucking talk to all of you. And it's been forever, and I'm so happy to be here. I apologize if I'm looking a tad bit strange, and perhaps if my background is strange. You may not realize this, but do you remember this echo? Well, not really an echo, but my voice is a lot more, out there. But I am in fact in the original dungeon. It's dressed up a bit more, had a bit more, modernicity placed upon it. Trying to imbue some, younger energy, some modern energy within this very drab establishment. Here, as you can see, it's essentially a white background because apparently I'm far too dark, too black for some of you apparently. So it's hard for the camera to pick up on some of the detail that I am obviously gracing all of you with. But but I sort of want to get to a serious note about something here. There's something that's sort of been a bit bothering me. I feel as though, rightfully so, I haven't really been diving, I think, as deep into these certain subjects as I believe I could be doing. There's a lot of subjects that I prefer not to talk about because I myself am no expert on. Despite the fact of me being a professor at the Now Academy, at the Now School that we have, I only specialize in a few fields when it comes to these sort of things. A lot of what I talk about are things that are theoretical in nature and in practice. And there are those people out there, mages, or perhaps people that identify themselves as witches, or perhaps other types of practitioners, that do these sort of crafts on a daily basis. It's something that they practice. I practice similar crafts, but in a slightly different manner. And some of which, I could perhaps do on camera, and perhaps I should, just to show you a proper demonstration, a proper, I suppose, ritual, as I suppose I can go into. Which, believe it or not, leads me to the topic of this video. That's right. I'm going to talk to you about rituals. Now, I know not if I properly discussed whether or not I spoke to you about the importance of things like summoning, I suppose the wherewithal, and I suppose the consequences, of course, of summoning, as there are with any sort of craft or thing you practice. Now, what perhaps you may not know is that people on a daily basis regularly summon things into their lives without knowing whether or not it is a spirit, which is essentially a form of energy that becomes an entity when it has a soul of its own, when it develops a sort of personality, or I believe self-awareness. An energy that is self-aware is otherwise known as an entity in a more basic sense. Spirits are entities. They have energy. They measure differently in terms of energy, but they are real creatures, and so they are real people as well. Now, not all spirits are people in the sense as maybe you understand, but these are entities that are capable of affecting the world in a slightly different manner, sometimes a bit more mundane or subtle, as I suppose some of you might expect. And some of them simply are here, they exist, but some of them don't have the self-awareness that would I suppose, dictate them to be a spirit per se. The energies in nature are simply that energy. But when the energy is given form, or when the energy is believed given some sort of intelligence, or believed sentience, that's when it sort of becomes a sort of spirit, in essence. But I suppose the whole theory behind spirits, I believe what we understand as spirits is something that perhaps could go into a separate video. But for now, I sort of want to talk about the concept of rituals. Now, in this lovely little grimoire, very humble looking, I did it when I was far younger. I found it a while ago. It has the Canticle of Mauricio, which I believe I recited at the beginning. Well, not at the beginning, but it was several videos ago. It was quite some time. But I had trouble, reading or deciphering it. But it's essentially a canticle to sort of remind the person, or to remind a follower of Pahalu, how Pahalu, who is in fact a spirit, a very powerful spirit, a very, positive one, so to speak, sort of helps the person that invokes the name and sort of reminds the user that, where we once died, perhaps, something else gave us life. And it sort of helps us to understand that we did not come into this world by ourselves. And so we cannot hope to conquer everything by ourselves either, be it death, life, or any sort of problems we have in our society. There are things within our power, yet there are things that sort of lie outside the boundaries of our own strength, which is why we require the help or aid of a being that is far more capable than we are in these certain areas. And in this sort of context, it refers to a great powerful being, or a deity as you might call, a spirit of great importance or significance or power. In here, it is Pahalu, and in other forms, it could be something else. Perhaps whatever you believe in, perhaps for whatever you are in, you have a specific name for whatever spirit you, in fact, adhere to. But, here on this channel, we seek to make the mundane magical, and we seek to properly inform the ignorant, stupid, blissful masses the importance of mages and all you other weirdos and fucktards about the importance of being ourselves and functioning in a society that is growing more and more ignorant in a sense of the importance of spiritual forces. Things like energies, even things like internal energies, because we ourselves are spiritual forces, except we have been, sort of physically manifested into this realm. How we came to being, like I said, everyone has their theories, everyone has their belief systems. Like I said, the dragon believers have theirs, the cult of Magda has theirs too. Oh my God, that's something I haven't mentioned in forever. But enough of that. So I believe the realness of what I wanted to talk about is I feel as though me personally, as someone who I believe dabbles in these sort of things, there's a lot of research, a lot of theories that study sort of things, different perspectives, different religions, the different relations, even things like history in regards to things like religion. What I've spoken to you before about, you have things like Norse mythology, Greek mythology, even things like Egyptian. You have things like the Middle Eastern aspects and how they all sort of have similar things in common. Now, whether or not that means these things actually existed in this realm physically, or if it's something that was more metaphorical in nature, remains to be seen. As you can see, there's no physical evidence, and what is present is anecdotal evidence. Evidence that is derived from experience, things like, what I personally went through, what I associate as being truthful in my own experience that can't really be denied because it happened to me. That is simply of that nature. But I believe I will go into things like rituals. Now here, this is simply a layout. I know I'm glistening. It is 70 fucking degrees in March. It is March. And people want to deny climate change. Hello, I am melting. It's not even spring yet. God, and I'm still in fucking Ohio, the Midwest, in Cleveland, city no one wants to be in, but no one wants to leave. I don't understand. Whatever. It's a whole thing, but I am surviving. So brief scope here are pretty much contents. And I have a whole list of things here that I believe I could discuss, I believe, in a wider date. But for now, I will go into rituals. I have sigils, and I, in fact, do have, glyphs and things of that nature. Things like matter. I have things like elements, but honest runes, but I honestly think, things like rituals is something I should perhaps go into and believe what people do not consider rituals that actually are. Here we are, rituals and, summoning. They go sort of hand in hand, depending on what you're doing. When you're performing a ritual, you must do so with a certain type of an intent. No one in their right mind would do a ritual for no reason. However, the reason why so many people do rituals and are not aware of it is because it has been not only normalized, but it has been sort of practiced and sort of used in society. We simply do it because that's just how we do it. We wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we eat breakfast, or we vice versa. That is technically a ritual you do every morning to get ready for the day. Or, for example, something that all of you perhaps understand a bit better. The ritual that everyone believes, in or whatever, at least the American thing, you wake up in the morning and you have to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. You have to have anything to sort of allow you to start the day properly. It is sort of these things that we sort of establish within ourselves that we require in order to function later on within the day. This is bullshit. You don't inherently need it. But because it's been normalized by society, because it has been accepted, and because it's something that's widely practiced, nobody questions it. I know myself, if I don't have my coffee, everything else. Everything becomes a ritual. When something is a routine, it sort of becomes a ritual. But that can be perhaps a bit vague, and something people can probably contest with. Well, no, I don't really believe that can be a ritual, because ritual inherently involves something more spiritual in nature. Something a lot more, either occult or something more, involved. But ritual can be rather mundane. It can also be rather basic, and it can also be extremely elaborate, But the thing is that there are many things and things. I said the same word twice in a row. There are many things and practices that we commit to on a daily basis that we do not consider rituals that in fact are. People say, like for example, ritual, when you're doing something to try and get something else in return. For example, you wake up in the morning, you drink a cup of coffee. Why? Because you believe the cup of coffee will give you the edge, the energy, and the thing you need to be able to survive throughout the day. And then throughout the day, you not only ingest one cup of coffee, perhaps 2, 3, or 4. Okay? People do the same thing with teas or anything else. People can do a similar thing with things like incense. Some people like to wake up in the morning with a fresh scent in the air. They do morning yoga, things to properly, straighten out their body, and it works for them. And these are the things that they do. I'm trying to stand myself in the camera, hello. And these are things that they sort of tend to do on a daily basis. Some people do, morning incantations. People that are in the Judeo-Christian faith, they do prayers to their God. They do a morning prayer. They have a breakfast or whatever. These are also rituals. Okay, when you're putting on, like if you constantly find yourself doing this, for example, as soon as you go out, before you go out, you make sure to always, put perfume on yourself and things of that nature. It's sort of habits, but a habit is inherently ritualistic, because when you look at a ritual, it is done so in a way that is sort of habit forming. But like I said, people, whenever they think of ritual, they automatically think of something spiritual or something inherently occult or whatever. At funerals, God forbid, someone dies, but hello, cycle of life or death. People, you dress in black. No one discusses why, but that is a normalized thing. You go to the cemetery. I forget the procession. I haven't been to a human funeral in quite some time. But you inherently go there. You have the open casket thing where you see the person, you greet them. You say your goodbyes. Why do you have to do this? But it's sort of a ritual, a thing that you do to sort of give yourself closure. The very idea that you feel as though you need to speak to a corpse in order to have closure, even though the person isn't really there anymore, is a sign of a ritual that you're doing. You are practicing something that doesn't really make too much sense in a typical manner. You're saying all these things to this person. that your mind, or perhaps you're telling yourself that some remnant of them is still there, or that they are watching. And so you are doing this thing as a term, as a type of homage to the person that you are visiting, to show a sign of respect that you miss them. So that wherever they are, let's be honest, that they can see this good gesture and sort of, traverse the afterlife in peace or have some semblance of acceptance. But the act itself is more for your person instead of for the deceased. And so you have this sort of practice. The day after, they have the person where they bury into the cemetery. People go out there also in black. It always seems to rain or whatever. Everyone is around the pit, seeing as the casket is being lowered down into the depths of the earth. And as they are putting their final things on it, they are sort of doing a final farewell. Different cultures have different sort of rituals they perform for the rite of passing, which is when you sort of go into the afterlife. But in America, as dull as it seems to be, it's actually very quite dull, but it is, buried in, ritualism and practices. That is simply what is done here in America. Other places, for example, I guess I could say the Vikings or some other, Icelandic, perhaps European cultures. Of someone of significance or importance is, I believe, killed or something of that nature. Some do bury, yes. Some offer things like prayers, or they do incense, things of that nature. Other ones bury mementos with their loved ones, or for the person of importance. Or perhaps if this was, rather far back, they would send them, into a boat through the ocean, if they were a traveler of some type, and then they would set the thing ablaze, or they would burn the body, sort of cremating the body, purifying it from within, and then essentially sending it into the other plane. That's essentially what fire acts as. Whenever you're burning something is essentially becoming part of the atmosphere, I guess part of the spirit realm. It's very symbolic, but it's something of that similar nature. Now, when it pertains to things like magic, or things like what we practice, the significance, I believe, the importance of rituals in itself is a sort of, like I said, it comes down to belief, but it's the intention behind the ritual. You're trying to do this sort of act that is supposed to essentially generate a sort of, outcome to happen in your life. And then it's similar, in fact, to what I explained before when it came to thinking about jinns and things like the lamp, making things like contracts of a similar nature. You're essentially offering something through this ritual to attain something else in return. So whenever you're performing things like magic, whatever your craft seems to be, things like burning of the herbs, you're cleansing the atmosphere. Some herbs help invite certain types of energies or spirits, help charge the energies within a certain area. What you're essentially doing is that you're essentially offering something that is pleasing to the spirits, is pleasing to the energies, that you can then use to, I believe, I'm saying this very, lightly, okay, with respect, absorb and take into yourself to sort of enhance your life or your perspective. Some people, they use things like black magic, white magic, green magic, hedge magic, all of these different types of magic. Practices, I should say. Magic, whether something is white or black, is honestly, it's subjective at this point. However, the purpose of doing these rituals is because you're trying to appease the energies, or you're trying to call forth something into your life, or expel something out. So there is something within each person, perhaps the spirit or the soul, that sort of understands these rituals. The intent that you're doing behind these rituals, the things that you're doing, they are being observed by energies, by spirits around. So the spirits that understand the ritual, the spirits that identify, the spirits that choose to make contact and to, I believe, signify that they are listening and that they are willing to have communication or contact, will do something during this ritual. And it can be something as basic, whatever, but sometimes it can speak to you in very subtle ways that help you understand or know for certain. Like I said, in respect to rituals, like I said, I'm speaking from a purely theoretical standpoint. I do something of a similar type, but it's very basic. I sort of admittedly not been doing too many rituals as of late. I'm sort of doing this whole rediscovery thing. But there are many people that engage themselves in these sort of ritual practices without understanding what it is that they're doing or why. Which unfortunately is, I believe, a point that I believe certain, religions or denominations used to use in, offense to people that practice more pagan religions, things of that nature. Like the very fact that you practice magic at all, if it's not aligned with any particular type of religion, the fact that magic is mentioned within the religion as something being negative and not similar to what they are doing, or at least what their types of spirits use, is, I believe, it's just branding at that point. I don't want to say marketing, but it is what it is. People try to say things like miracles or divine acts or whatever, but anything that happens on a supernatural level can be a form of magic, believe it or not. It's just the term magic or the word magic itself has developed a negative connotation within society through many people that govern parts of society of a religious inclination or simply of a misunderstanding as to what they see or to what they've been told. So that's simply what we are going through at this moment in time. But things like rituals. So I believe another ritual, one that I am very familiar with, people that I've seen, for example, when people go to Catholic Mass, for example, there is a specific ritual you do in place. The sacraments, it's an entirely ritualistic practice. It's inherently deep in, ritualistic significance. It is a type of, craft, but it's thought of as a divine craft because it was supposedly dictated by a divine being. So it is something that's not seen as magic, even though it is. And it simply acts as a form of, obedience, but by doing these sort of things, it is supposed to bring something else into your life. That's simply what you're doing. Lent, it's the same reason why. Things like the Sabbath, things that the, Jews do for the Sabbath. They keep the Sabbath. Even some Christians are doing it now. These are all rituals that you are doing. Types of witchcraft are believed just magic craft or div craft. I think I can probably coin the term, that you are doing because you believe that by performing this ritual, it is sort of supposed to invite the positive energy from your spirit or whatever great spirits there are into your life to enact a change. That's a ritual. You're essentially doing a ritual, whether or not it is inherently magic. The result, it is magic, but you are doing a ritual. But you believe it to be completely, innocent or benevolent just because you are doing it for a benevolent being. However, you have people in the more Muslim, things like Islam, they have a sort of a different sort of aspect, a different, twist of a similar belief. Because biblically speaking, on both of theirs, there's similarities. Because at one point it sort of branched off from Abraham, I believe, or something like that. But like I said, these are ritualistic practices, okay? The very fact that you have to, do something first or whatever, sex itself is a ritual, believe it or not. I think I mentioned it a long time ago. But sex, and some people, even witches, involve sex in their craft because it is a type of, magic that you use because you are harvesting the energy through sexual intercourse. Because there is energy that swirls about you when you're doing these sort of acts. And so the properties of semen, because it is seen as a life-giving substance, it has very high potent, life properties, something that can be extremely positive or something that's very potent, that is used in a variety of rituals and practices. However, when it comes to things like, sex or whatever, sex is actually a type of ritual. The reason why people have sex is because they are seeking to gain pleasure or to create a new life. You are inherently, this is what you're doing without even knowing it, okay? You know how I said every person's a spirit? When you are uniting yourself with another person, you are essentially surrendering your spirit to the other spirit, So that your spirit and that your energies is inherently meld together, that they are mixing. So upon this mixing, you are both going to receive an effect by it. You're going to either feel very good, very awkward, or pleased by the experience. The results could be, you have a type of euphoria, not to show. You have, if done incorrectly, you leave feeling with remorse, guilt, or fear. because the type of ritual, when you do rituals incorrectly, it can sort of, cause certain side effects to happen. When you do it correctly, you feel invigorated, you feel as though you've done something better. And the result, to add on to the other two I just mentioned, is to give life, depending on who you're, being with, traditionally speaking. You are creating a life or whatever. But what is interesting about this certain aspect is that, by two spirits coming together, two spirits are inherently making another spirit. What you're making is a shell for a spirit from out of nowhere to inhabit. However, this is the interesting fact, or interesting point. So if spirits are simply energies that have been given self-awareness, then anything that breathes, anything that is bred or released is inherently a spirit in dormant form because it has energy. For example, I think it's in Japanese mythology. I forget which one it is. I want to say a type of animism or Shinto or something like this, where they have this sort of myths or legends about these sort of inanimate objects becoming like onis, types of demons or spirits of a certain kind. A belief system that they had was whenever you had an object of a particular type, whether it could be something as a chair or something else, when it's pretty much been dwelling within a home, for example, with a bunch of people, inherently spirits, over a long period of time, hundreds of years or centuries, the furniture itself starts to develop an identity, self-awareness, because the energy within the chair has been amplified by the energy from the other spirits that live within the same area, so it's charging it. So there's a superstition about keeping furniture for too long. You don't want to do that, otherwise a spirit can then manifest within the piece of furniture itself or whatever, and then it can take a form or whatever it be. These sort of things are, portrayed in this sort of, pictures, things of onis, or I just say that broadly speaking, but you know what I mean. So if something inanimate as an object can inherently develop a spirit of a certain type because it is a form of energy, then what we could surmise is that whenever a person, perhaps, the fluids turn together, the energy from one is transferred to the energy of another one, these two energies are essentially commingling or manifesting them or manipulating the matter within them, between them, to form a shell. The energy that was dormant or believed left over is essentially being built, essentially growing within the female, because she is a creature of energy. She's essentially housing the energy within her and charging the small little battery that she has inside. And so through time, as it increases, the energy itself starts to become more self-aware. Things like AI. The more the AI learns, the more the AI gains or whatever, the more it becomes itself. The same thing with energy, or the same thing with certain types of matter or mass in response to organic life. The more they receive, the more they grow, the more they start to develop, the more they start to learn, the more they start to become themselves. And so energy in that perspective can sort of be, revolutionary when you're thinking about things like spirits being forms of energy. An entity is simply a way of explaining a sort of spirit or a being. A being is an energy. A being is also an entity. A spirit can be an entity. However, some spirits are very dormant. Energy itself is not an entity because it does not have the self-awareness. It doesn't have the capacity to understand. It doesn't have understanding or believe wisdom in a sort of knowledge sense. So, there's energy all around us, but not all the energy is spirits. But some of the energy that is aware, that is moving, that is acting of its own accord, or the accord with other spirits or energies, is inherently a spiritual weather. So when you're performing sort of rituals or practices, things like brushing your teeth or waking up in the morning, doing this, or having a nice soiree, or having a nice session, or you're doing something in order to gain something else in return, it is inherently a ritual in its most basic aspect. Basic bitch aspect, okay? Going to work, why? The ritual of waking up in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee to go to work, to come back, you are doing it, why? Because you are seeking to gain finances in return. It is a ritual you are doing. Work is in fact a ritual. The reason why this is because you have the understanding and the belief that you are going to get paid as soon as you work, Unless the company goes under, you get paid nothing. But that's inherently what you are doing. Christians, Catholics, Muslims, or Mormons, or whatever, those who practice these sort of, more supported religions or whatever, do what they do because they believe that they are getting what they are putting out because they claim to, have the results and see the results. And I'm simply speaking in hypotheticals because I don't want to, bridge anything But without further more delay, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching this sort of video, this sort of explanation. If there's something perhaps that I missed, something that perhaps you don't agree with, or perhaps you want me to, I believe, discuss or talk about, just for further clarification, if you so I'm incorrect or whatever, feel free to put it into the comments. I should have all of you sort of, gain a new perspective or an idea as to what you might be doing that could be a ritual, perhaps something that maybe I'm doing that is a ritual. And simply, explain it in the comments. I am eager to see the madness unfold. However, with madness comes intelligence and wisdom, and genius. So there has to be a flip side to this. We can't be mad all the time, otherwise it becomes boring. We have to be sane every now and then to sort of, cleanse the palate. For the rest of the bouquet, for the rest of the buffet to come. But thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Remember that, we are a family, we are friends, that be kind to one another. You feed your family, your animals, whatever your brother, keep up in the cage. And then to remember, importantly, that I, in fact, do care for you, as does Pahalu. And that, if you are in doubt, remember, you have more power and more strength than you realize. Goodbye!